Welcome to the Open Bedroom Podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Kalo. Welcome to conversations about open relationships, online dating, and creating relationship dynamics that truly align for you. I've looked at your Instagram and there's like flames and hula hoops and actresses, like all kinds of like a circus.
So the cool part about the play and kind of how we started is let us know your fantasy. And I have a team of erotic producers that will make it come true.
Michael Hollis has spent his career in entertainment, including TV, film, and advertising. He's created Super Bowl commercials, worked at Google and LinkedIn. All of this experience has led him to creating The Play, live play parties with a focus on storytelling, immersion, sensory, self-expression, healing, and building community. Michael, I am so honored that you came on today's podcast, and I can't wait to dig into this. Can you stop for just a minute and tell us a little bit about you, how in the world you got to creating these play parties? And then we'll dive into what they are and how you can be a part of it.
I'm a big fan of the podcast, and I'm just excited to be able to connect and talk with your listeners. So to answer your question, how did I get started? My wife and I, 7 years ago, became ethically non-monogamous, and we were boyfriend and girlfriend at the time. So prior to us getting married, that's when we became ethically non-monogamous. And when we first did, we started discovering the space, and to me, I always use this analogy, but it felt like vampires were living amongst us. There's like a different language, you ask somebody, are you in the lifestyle? And they're like, yes, I am. And then if you ask somebody that's not in the lifestyle, are you in the lifestyle? Like, what's lifestyle do you mean? It's like, you don't know what I'm talking about. So let me keep it going. So all to say is, we would go to a variety of parties. And, sometimes there were hotel takeovers where it's 400 people. We've been to smaller parties where all, 7 of us go to Joshua Tree. And so we do all these experiences, and we started realizing that there's certain things missing that would make us feel more comfortable, more engaged. And I think just overall safer in the environment as well. So, one of my friends who I was working at the time at Universal, he was the cameraman there and or the photographer there. And we did this daytime television show. And one night he invited me over. He was like, hey, come on over to movie night. And I was like, okay, yeah, cool. And at this time, my wife and I had been in the lifestyle for like 7-8 months, so we didn't think anything of it. We went over to his place. He had an infinity wall, and they just projected a movie onto it. And, when we got there, people were dressed pretty sexy. It was like maybe 8 of us, and like they were dressed pretty sexy. And we're like, interesting. But, in Los Angeles, in the artist world, like that's not a big deal. People dress like that. So we're like, okay, cool. We all watched the movie. We had like some drinks and we were hanging out. And one thing led to another where, we were all kind of hooking up next to each other. And my wife and I were already in the lifestyle. So we were seeing the signs like, hey, baby, I think something's going to happen here. So like, yeah, let's scoot a little closer. So all of a sudden one thing led to another. And then, we're all kind of like making out and touching, but that's really, as far as we got, just some kissing and touching. But as that happened and that concluded, some of the women got up and they were like either topless or naked, and they started dancing in front of the projector. And as they were dancing, and there was like a galaxy at that time being projected. And so I'm looking at these women, their bodies covered in this galaxy light and watching their silhouettes dancing. And it hit me. I was like, this is so beautiful. And why aren't we paying attention to the beauty of these spaces, right? Like everybody wants to play, and that's cool. And sometimes there's these performances, but a lot of times when it's a performance, it's from a performer, it's a professional, not just one of your friends. So when I could go up to them afterwards, like, oh my God, ladies, you guys look so good doing this. Like, we have to, like, this has to be a thing. So I think one thing led to another. And we were like, all right, what if we did a party where everybody who attended did a performance, whether it was their kink or a poem or, just maybe they wore different outfits. And so that's kind of how the play started. It was like 6 or 7 couples, and each of us would do a performance. And it was a way for us to connect and break the ice to where it didn't feel as if like, oh, this is this professional performer who's going to like, perform and then leave the space, or perform and like they're untouchable. It's like, oh my God, tell me like how long have you guys been into BDSM and flogging? Like, can you show me some flogging techniques? So it was just a really cool space for self-expression and learning. The other big thing when I was discussing like, hey babe, I think I want this to be a thing. She was like, well, I have one rule. Everyone has to be tested. And I was like, oh my God, like, baby, there's not one play party that requires testing. She's like, that doesn't matter. Like, that's what I feel comfortable with. So if you want to do another party, and at that time we'd only done one. So she's like, if you want to do this again, everybody there needs to be tested. And I was going, it made me want to fight back because it was outside of what I was used to and the comfort zone. We'd been going to so many play parties that never required that. But it hit me. It's like, you know what? Yeah, why don't we be the party that's trailblazing when it comes to health and STI testing? That's what we'll be known for. So that was our first pillar. And we have 4 pillars, which are health, consent, intimacy, and artistry. So number 1 though was health, and that's how we got that health pillar. And yes, that's to the story, like that's kind of how the play was created. Each party got a little bit bigger. We've changed the formula a few times, but the flow is very much the same from the beginning, as far as focusing on connection and authentic relating and artistry at the beginning, to then see if it leads to physical engagement, and yeah, and connection. And so I think that's really what's different from us than other parties, is that we're kind of reverse engineering the play party, where a lot of parties you go to and you don't really know anybody, and you're having drinks, and then somehow like you kind of get into a situation and play and it's cool, and then after you're having like a really long conversation with them, it's like, oh my God, that was so much fun, it was my first time doing that with somebody, and you're going back and forth with the person because you guys just did this thing that was exhilarating. We want to have all that connection at the beginning. Let's talk about your boundaries, let's talk about consent, let's watch this art show, let's engage with the art, let's look at the art from past parties, let's do this connection activity. You know, let's already turn in our STIs, because a lot of time people right before they connect will be like, hey, when was the last time you were tested? For our party, like coming into the space, everyone's tested, so we don't have to ask that question. So when we kind of reverse engineering it, making sure all that connection and information is being exchanged from the jump, really leads to more intimate and deeper connections when it gets physical, and less consent issues as well.
I have so many questions.
Yeah.
This is amazing. Okay. Let's talk first about the STI testing, because I get so many questions about this. I've done episodes about this. The majority of sexually active adults, especially in the lifestyle, have something, have had something, whatever. And there's a
Hmm.
lot of shame around this. And so I'm wondering if our listeners are thinking, well, I have herpes or I have this other thing, I can't, then I'm automatically excluded. Can you explain a little bit more about this process and who's invited and who still can come or can't? Like, how does this work?
Yes. We require testing for HIV, gonorrhea, syphilis, and chlamydia. We do not go down the HSV1 or HSV2 wormhole. There is a lot of research and studies out there in medicine, out there to prevent the transfer of HSV1 and HSV2. Now, if you have an outbreak, we ask that you not come, just like we ask that you not come if you're sneezing or coughing, right? Like just normal things. So, but if you're taking your, the prescribed medicine, and you have an outbreak, it's still like a 4% chance of transfer. So again, don't quote me on these stats, but this is
we are not doctors.
Yes, exactly. I'm not a doctor, but all to say is like if you're not having breakouts, and you feel, you're not having breakouts, you feel good. We just ask that, hey, have that conversation with someone. But a lot of times when it comes to HSV1 and HSV2, if you're not having active breakouts, people are safe. And the other thing is we require that everyone wear condoms at our parties. So this is not like if you come to a party and get tested, like everybody's having raw sex. Absolutely not. We say that you can, have raw sex with your fluidly bonded partners, and if you don't know what fluidly bonded means, it just means like, maybe it's your wife or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is, you guys just don't use condoms, but you've had that conversation prior to entering the space. So that's what we categorize as fluidly bonded. So yeah, when it comes to testing, we also make sure that testing happens 90 days prior to the event you want to attend. Now, a lot of people are like, oh my God, 90 days is a lot of time. Yes. However, we are dealing with, and with our community specifically, we're dealing with 1,500 people, right? So that means 1,500 people are getting tested once per quarter. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to shifting a culture, right? It takes a community to be able to shift a culture. And that's what we're trying to do here. In our community, we want our culture to be that everyone's getting tested once per quarter. Now, with a newer couple coming in, they're like, well, Michael, we've only hooked up with each other. So for our whole lives and, or maybe in the last 6 months, do we have to get tested? Absolutely. Because there's been times where, that couple has submitted their results and somebody has something, and that's a whole nother conversation. Right. But point is that, with the people who are like, oh, well, I haven't been tested in 3.5 or 4 months, like, perfect. Just go get tested again. We actually provide you the resources of like, hey, here are the testing facilities in your area. Nice. to go get tested, free, anonymous. They do walk-ins. We're very familiar and we have relationships with these, some of these companies as well, to make sure that you can kind of get there fast. But let's say, the play has been growing at an awesome rate to where we're getting people flying in from Texas. Forget just the United States. Like we're getting people all over the United States, New York, Miami, Texas. I think we've had some Arkansas in there. We've had some Nashville. We've had some, you name it, it's coming all over the US. But really what's happening is like we're getting, I think last year we had 23 people come from the UK, 10 people come from Canada. We had 2 people come from Australia,
Wow.
Yeah, we're getting South America in there. So this is just, it's growing. And so like sometimes we can provide you with an STI location, but there's been times where we're trying to find a nurse that speaks Spanish so they can read through the STI results from Brazil, or can read Portuguese, excuse me.
Okay, so once they get their results, I'm assuming you upload it somewhere to show, hey, I did this thing and it checks a box. No,
because that's a HIPAA violation. So,
sorry.
It's okay.
I'm like, how does this work?
Yeah, so we'll review them, but we don't save them. Right. Okay. And that's the big part here is that we're just going to review them like, okay, you passed, great. And then we don't save your results because we're not here to keep your medical information or anything like that. We just care that you're coming into the space, STI free, at least in the last, 3 months.
Yeah, what a beautiful container you're creating. I have one last quick question about this, and then we can move off of STI testing. But my question would be, if someone did purchase a ticket, they were ready to come, they were having an outbreak, I would assume that there's, one of two things that could happen. They could notify you and say, I just don't think I should come this time. Can you hold my ticket for next time? And is that a possibility? And the other might be, I'm just going to keep my underwear on and that's not going to come off. And I don't know what would you say to someone
I'm
like
going to
that?
talk a lot today about shifting the culture. So when someone lets us know about their STI status, that they've received a positive result, what shifts the culture is how we receive that information.
Yeah.
Right? By saying, hey, thank you for taking care of our community by sharing this. That is totally fine. Like, we honor you and respect you for bringing this to our attention. And, if you can get it fixed prior to the party, then like just knock it out. I think if you get gonorrhea nowadays, like, it's a shot in your butt and like a week later you're fine, So it's not, we're in a sexually active community. To shame people for getting STIs is just ridiculous. It's like, this is what's going to happen. If you have enough sex, like, you're gonna get something, and it's totally fine if you get something. This is why we have the cures. We don't shame people when they get the cold, so like, or when they get strep throat or any other type of, infection. Why would we do it for, a sexually transmitted infection? So I think on our team, we just want to make sure that we're receiving it with grace and saying, hey, thank you for this information, and providing them with resources of where to get, it quote unquote fixed or resolved. And then for us, we don't allow we don't do refunds or transfers of tickets unless it has to do with STIs. So if you're getting you purchase your ticket and then you find out you get an STI, it's like, oh, don't worry, we'll transfer your ticket to the next party. This is exactly what it's for. And so we just don't want, there is no shame, and not even so much that there's shame. It's a celebrated reaction for when we get, information about someone being STI positive. Like, thank you for taking care of yourself and our community.
So beautiful. And it was funny because before we hit record, you and I were just talking about normalizing not only ethical non-monogamy, but playing, and how play is sex, especially, is our version of being in the sandbox when we're a kid. Like, we have found that there's so much sexual expression that gets to come out in a fun way, and that this is how we play as adults. So will you walk me through, who is the play for? Is it for everyone? Is it something that everybody can come to? Is it for elite LA folk only? Because, here in Arkansas, that feels super unattainable. And then what is it like to be at the play?
Yeah. Okay. So who is the play for? The play is for everyone. Well, I'll say this. Our tagline is, the play is like the crossroads of art and sex. So if you enjoy art, you want to experience art, engage with it, then this is the party for you. There's some parties that have no art focus and are just play parties. And sometimes people just want to go play at these parties, and we get that. Ours is just going to have a bit of an art focus, and then it's going to turn into a play party. So who is it for? So yes, it's going to be for people who just want to experience something new in the play space. Because in Los Angeles, there's so many play parties, and that's kind of what separates the play from the pack, is like our focus on art and self-expression, and also the formula in which we execute this play party. So, and we can get into that later, of like, here's what a night at the play looks like. Because I think once you know what a night at a party looks like, because so many parties are like, oh, just come to this sex party, it's going to be fun. It's like, what do you mean? Like, what does that mean? When does sex happen? Is it like I get in the door and it's like, take off your clothes? So I like, explaining here's what a night at the play looks like hour by hour to manage your expectations, right? So you're not coming in, you're knowing that, okay, we're just in the first hour, like this and this is going to happen. So um, who is it for? So, again, it's for everyone because our price point, like for a female identifying guest, it's $140. For a male identifying guest, it's $360. So it's basically like $500 for a couple. This is like going to Disneyland, right? That's kind of the price point you're going to be working with here. Are there cheaper parties? Yes, but there are parties, in Los Angeles that are, $1,200 for a single man and $20 for a woman, and for me, when you start getting these, drastic differences in price, right? If a man is paying $1,200 to come to a play party, he's going to have some expectations. It's not out of the question for this man to have expectations. And also for a woman that pays $20, well, you may not care what happens at the party. Like what, it's $20. I may be there for 5 minutes and just be on my way. So it also creates a power dynamic as well. For us, the reason we have it to where it's 360 for a male and 140 for a female identifying guest is from our demographic. Well, first off, we live like in America where like women are making 70 cents on the dollar. So like we have to make sure like there is, understanding how just our society set up. But then also what we find are the women that come to our parties are, getting their nails done, getting their hair done. Maybe they're getting waxed. Maybe they're going to see Uncle Bezos and getting something off Amazon,
Right.
or a different outfit, or just all the little thing. Maybe they're getting their eyelashes done. There's eyebrows. Like there's so many different things that women do to prepare for a play party that aren't always in, I'll say, the cis male, playbook. A lot of guys are like, you know what? I'll get a haircut and I'll find something in my closet and it'll work. So what we found is like that with those price points that each person is paying around the same amount, and there's not that big power dynamic as well. So yeah, that's the price point. What was the other question?
Oh, well, my other question was, who is it for? Is it like, I don't want people to think this is an unreachable thing. I love that you frame this up as this is Disney World or Disneyland. Like this is something for you and your partner to decide that you're going to do. And maybe it's like, it's once a year, or maybe it is every quarter, especially if you live in LA. That sounds like a lot of fun. And then you book the plane ticket and you book the hotel and you go buy the outfits and you make it this really big fun event to come to.
Exactly. That's how we want it set up to where, and that's the other thing. We only allow 50% returning guest and 50% new guest.
Ah,
So, I mean, we have sold out of every party for the past 3 years.
wow.
This is, it's a thing. So we want to make sure that, like your listeners have a chance at getting in the door, versus it's like this same demographic always coming. And then also for individuals who are part of like small poly communities, the smaller poly communities, when you hook up with that community over and over and over again, there's politics, right? Like, yes, there's 20 people at the party, but you can really only hook up with two of them.
Right.
And there's a lot of politics that develops over time. So our thing is like, let's make sure that we're getting new energy in, new creativity in the door.
Oh,
Um, yeah. So, and we want people, like your listeners, to be able to have a chance to come to the play and experience it. It is one of those things where you should save up and find the hotel that's next to the party and maybe go plan a spa day. That's a big thing. Plan a spa day after you go to a play party. There's a little nugget for you. Like
that's a good idea.
because I actually treat the play team to a spa day after every single party to debrief and decompress, because there's a lot of things that happened that night. We all want to make sure that we saw. Did we see the similar
Integration.
things? Exactly.
Calm your nervous
Exactly.
system.
Some integration. So yeah, and the other thing is, what I love about the play is the diversity. We aren't the black party, the white party, the Latino, the Asian, the gay, the straight. we are the party of artists. And I'm from Los Angeles. So the party's makeup is like Los Angeles. Is Los Angeles 40% white? Yes. Is it 20%, Latino? Is it 20% black, or 20% Asian? Like, the cool part about the play is you're not going to be the only one of anything, whether we're talking size or height or, race, religion. It is a melting pot of a lot of different cultures and ethnicities, and backgrounds, all in one space. And that's really what makes it so beautiful is the diversity in every category. Are you going to see people that are, is there going to be a trans couple there? Yeah, there may be one. Is there going to be a gay couple there? Possibly. Is there going to be a lesbian couple? Maybe. I can't guarantee, because there's been, it's all over. I would definitely say it's not the LGBTQ community party, right? Like, there are gay parties for, people who identify like that, and those are very different than what we do. We're trying to offer a space that supports everyone, but it is not. I could never compete with, like, what the gay parties in LA look like. Let me tell you, those are a completely different scene. So all to say, it is definitely more of a heteronormative space, but it's welcoming of everyone.
Mm-hmm. Which leads me to, tell me about the art. Like, I've
Oh
looked
my
at your
God.
Instagram and there's like flames and hula hoops and actresses, like all kinds of like a circus.
So the cool part about the play, and kind of how we started, is let us know your fantasy, and I have a team of erotic producers that'll make it come true. So we've had a woman, or a couple, we've had a woman who was like, I have a new song. I've been working on a song that I want to sing in front of everybody. And we're like, all right, yeah, great. Can we make it a little interactive? And they're like, yeah, like, I've always wanted people to, like, paint on my body, but I don't want to be touched. So she let us know her boundaries. She let us know her fantasy. And so our team digested it, and we came up with this awesome performance where she was naked on a table singing her song, like, very sensually. And the theme of that party was the primal play. So we gave everyone a feather, and there was like 3 different colors on the table that you could dip the feather into. So then she had 40, 50 people with feathers all painting her body as she's singing the song. And we only gave them 3 colors because, like, look, I've made the mistake by giving people the rainbow, and it just gets wild. So it was like this really cool, earth tone, canvas, if you will. And then at the end, we gave everybody a small canvas with, like, some cool painter's tape designs, like very skinny painter's tape on it. And then they took that canvas and pressed it up about against her body, their favorite part. Then they got the wet, when the paint was wet, they take off the painter's tape. They have this cool design. They take it home. And then at home, it's like, where'd you get that piece from?
Let me tell you. You're
Yeah,
never going to believe the story I'm about to tell you.
You got to give people the stories.
So hold on. If you have 1,500 people, you had 1,500 people pressing their canvases against her body?
No. At the parties, the parties are about, I'd say they range between 70 people to like 130.
Okay.
We have 1,500 in the community. So that's the thing. When we send out our email to say, hey, here's when the next party is, I think we sold out of our Barbie party in 48 hours. That was back when Barbie was fun. I was coming right off Barbie. Yeah. We were actually going to do like heroes and villains. And then, the Barbie movie came out, and I went to go see it, and I was like, yeah, stop everything. Yes. We're changing it to the Barbie party. Like, we got to ride this wave. This is going to be great. So the only theme that we have continued to repeat, which is the Matrix.
Ooh.
Oh yeah. Look, the Matrix could have been a sex party, right? There's a lot of scenes in there. Right? So we're just leaning into that. But yeah, it's It's 90, I'd say we're averaging about 90 people. And again, 50% of them are experiencing it for the first time. Because I never liked the feeling of going to a party and, being the odd man out. Oh my God, I didn't go on the snowboarding trip. So like I can't fucking connect with everybody here.
Yeah.
So it feels good when at least half the people here are experiencing this for the first time. So it's easy to build relationships.
And there's nothing like the first time in so many ways. But we've done Meow Wolf Dallas now twice. And the
Hmm.
second time, it was not the same. I
Yeah.
was like, we should bring some mushrooms. And it still wasn't the same experience as the first time where you're just like, what is this room? Oh my God. And I'm assuming
Yeah.
that the play is probably always fresh because you keep redesigning it and there's new themes and there's new
Well,
entertainers.
that's the whole thing, is that there's just no two play parties that are the same.
Yeah.
Every single time it's new guests. So we have, and then we're using people's fantasies, and so and then we're doing a new theme. So it's just every single one is drastically different. People, when I ask people what their favorite party is, it's rarely their first one. Sometimes it's like, because your first one, you're getting used to this new thing,
Right.
like you are. And I was kind of telling you this before, we hopped on. You're entering into a new environment. If you think you're going to go to a play party and be comfortable the first time, you really do not know what you're getting yourself into. This is nothing like a bar. This is nothing like a social club or a nightclub, or any other social scene that you may think it is. It is drastically not that. And that's why we set up the interviews, the one-on-one interviews, because in those interviews, it's not just interviewing you, it's us starting to give you the language to be successful in this environment. How do you ask somebody their boundaries respectfully? How do you tell somebody what you desire tonight respectfully? How do you respectfully say no? What does an enthusiastic guest look like? How do I ask to be a voyeur? Right? Like, you can't, like, do you think it's okay to just go up to somebody and watch them have sex without their consent? Right? And what's the distance that I need to probably start saying something? Because I'm in the same room, I should be able to like just look around the room and be okay. Yeah, sure. But if I want to get closer, is there some communication that needs to happen there? So, and a lot of women, and a lot of women say going to a play party is way safer than going to a bar, right? Because if a guy wants to interact with you or just touch your shoulder, he's going to ask for consent, right? This isn't just he's somebody walked past me and touched my butt. If you walk past somebody in our space and touch their butt and they let us know that you touched their butt, we're just kicking you out. This isn't the bar where we're like, oh, who cares? I don't know that guy. No, it's like quite literally where you're kicked out of our community. And this is a small community as well. Like, you think it's big, but it's a small world, even amongst play parties and play party owners, right? Like, when we find out one person did something bad at our party, we tell each other everything to be like, hey, no, this guy is not allowed. So if you think, oh, I'm just going to grab this girl's butt at this party before I leave, and that's okay, like, no, 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 we'll find out. And then we'll make sure you don't go to any other party. And then we'll create a path to repair. But that's a whole nother conversation of what repair and code of conduct implementation looks like.
So I asked you, who is this for? And there is a part of the E&M community or a part of the
Mm.
open relationship community, maybe not the E and the E&M, whatever, where
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to label anybody. There are people that just want to have sex. And I am imagining that when you sign up for a party like this, you're having these in-depth interviews, you're learning the code of conduct, you're learning how to ask for consent and for, may I touch you or may I come watch you or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And then you
Yeah.
spend the first 3 hours preparing to have the sex. You're being entertained. You're having these authentic relating conversations. You're feeling comfortable. You're starting to feel this connection and attraction for people that you're like, I want to play with you. I'm imagining that there are some people that this is not for. Like, you're not just going to walk in, go fuck people, and then leave.
Oh my God.
And you might
I'm
feel
not sure.
frustration if you think that's what this is, right?
Yeah, yeah. So let me start with, if you are having problems in your relationship and you think opening it up is going to help, you are going to kill your relationship even faster than what it may be, deteriorating at. This is for couples who are secure in the relationship and have great communication, because the level of communication that you have to have with your partner, um, in preparation for this is, you know, it's almost like an evolved level of communication. And I want to be very careful, because a lot of people in the ethically non-monogamous space think we're like this evolved form of humans, and we're not. What we do well though is communicate. If you're successful in this space, you're a good communicator. So in preparation for a play party, I tell couples, like, a great exercise to do is to write your boundaries down in separate rooms, right? So no one's being influenced by the other person's boundary. And then come together being like, okay, well, here are my boundaries and here are your boundaries. So, whoa, both of us are, I'm okay with you sucking someone else's dick, but I'm not okay with you making out with them, right? Like, these are conversations that you should be having, right? Like, are you just here? Like, are we just here to kiss other couples? Are we here to find a unicorn, right? A lot of couples, I've seen it before, where the couples are just there to find a single woman. Well, if every couple's there to find a single woman, then why would we want you in the space, right? Like, what's then I'm putting a lot of single women in a space where it's like they feel like there's a bunch of unicorn hunters around, right? And it's also coming from a very masculine, not so much, I mean, a little bit of toxic masculinity, and, like, our inherent patriarchy that guides us to think that, like, okay, well, we're getting into this space, so, like, me and my wife are looking for another woman to add because she's comfortable with women, I'm comfortable with women, but I'm not comfortable with my wife hooking up with another man, right? And that's just, I think if you want to be successful in this space, like, having those real conversations of, like, if what is the guy that I am comfortable with you hooking up with? What would he have to do? I know with my wife, if she wants to hook up with another guy, at a play party, that's fine. Like, let's say they want to hook up more often, then mine's like, hey, let's go get a beer. Let's go get lunch. Let's go have dinner. Let's just hang out. Like, because I want to be your friend. You're about to engage with someone I consider a queen in my life. So I want to make sure you're at least going to treat her like a princess. So let's make sure that I'm outlining my boundaries with you, with her as well, and having those conversations. Just like, and I encourage women to do the same thing. If your husband or partner is going to be consistently seeing a woman, it shouldn't be like, oh, I just turn the other cheek and, like, they do their thing and don't ask, don't tell. Oh my God, that rule right there has gotten so many couples in so much trouble, where it's like, I just don't want to know about it. I don't care. This isn't, it's avoiding, it's a little avoidant. And don't get me wrong, that could be some people's style, and it's totally fine. I just think, you don't need to know all the details of what happens when the hookup happens, right? But to be able to have a line of communication with the other woman to make sure that, like, hey, he said this to me, did he say this to you as well? Right? Like, because that's when cheating starts, when lying starts. So, I think a good practice to have, if you're going to be seeing someone consistently, right, is to create a group chat with all three of us.
Yeah.
Easy. We can just text, like, hey, we're gonna go to dinner tonight at this time. He'll be back at this time. Hey, he's on his way home. Thank you so much. Like, thank you for letting me
Hands
borrow your
back off
husband.
to you. It's
Oh my
yummy.
goodness.
We're
Yes,
super
like
kitchen table too. I love that so much. Yeah.
yeah, just yeah.
Well,
Um,
I love this because you're talking about the Venn diagram. So one is it's important if you come to our parties that you're aligned, that you're in a good spot in your relationship. You're not coming here to like fix something or like people are going to figure you out really quickly that shit's not good. And then
yeah,
two, like take your boundaries into separate rooms, write them down, find the diagram where it connects. That's what you're walking
exactly.
into the play party with. And one thing that you mentioned when you talked about your four pillars was intimacy. And I'm super
Mm,
curious how at a play party you start incorporating intimacy in.
okay, so let's just get into. Let me walk you through what a night at the play looks like.
Okay.
Okay, so prior to you arriving, you've already submitted your application, done your one-on-one interview.
Yeah.
You've signed our NDA, right? Like
Oh,
we have an NDA. We've got some protection for you in there. If you see somebody from your job or from another industry, I mean, we've had famous actors and athletes attend our parties. Like they don't want their business out there.
yeah.
We've had just people forget their title. They just want their private life private. So we want to make sure that there's protections for you there. You submitted your STI results and you purchased your ticket, right? So you come in, you're welcomed by the greeter. We have a bag check, coat check, and phone check, right? So if you want to wear some lingerie, right? Like you don't have to worry about doing a bunch of layers. Like just wear the trench coat. And then when you get there, you can take it off and you'll be in your lingerie. Great. And then a bag check, right? And this is what I love about the bag check is that we want you to bring your sex toys.
Mhm.
Bring all of them. Bring your favorite sex toy. But more so because this is the party for artists, bring something that's creative, like your creative expression. It could be like, you know, a canvas and some paint. It could be an instrument. It could be dancing fans. It could just be like your favorite cat ears. It could be like a butt plug tail. Um, it really doesn't matter, but just something fun and creative to the space. If you want to bring a fucking lightsaber because you want to feel like a Jedi, bring that fucking lightsaber. Um, so we've had lightsabers brought to the party. Um, but all to say, you know, or if you want to bring like you like changing outfits or you have a stuffed animal that you like to keep on, you like just put it in the bag. You know, we don't just encourage it, we celebrate it because that's what makes the space so beautiful is everybody's bringing a little bit of that divine creativity or something that they love to the space. Then it becomes this really juicy soup of creativity. So then phone check, right? We require that you check your phone at the door. This isn't a lot of play parties like, hey, put your phone away.
Mhm.
Look, guys, let's be honest here. Your phone rings in your pocket 4 times, right? You're gonna look. Some people, you know, people have kids, responsibilities, you know, older parents, you name it, right? Like if your phone rings, whether at a play party or not, you're gonna look at it. And the worst thing to do at a party is to look at your phone inside of a party. Looking at my phone and you're in a pile playing and you look at me and we make eye contact and you're like, well, he has his phone in his hand. Like, did he just take a picture? And I'm like, fuck, no, I just like was just checking my text. But like now we don't know. And all you see is evidence of phone. And I'm looking at you playing and I'm feeling awkward, you're feeling awkward. And so we're just like, let's not even have that. Our goal in this space is to decrease the amount of potential anxiety. So we make everybody put their phone away. It's checked like a security guard is watching your phone.
Wow.
And so we have 3 rules for when you enter the space. So after you purchase your ticket and all that good stuff, you're entering the space, no phones, no money, and no hierarchy. Right. These were things that we didn't like in society. Right. We don't like that, you know, your phone becomes this escape route of real social interaction. Right. We don't like how, you know, the class system of how like people who may not have as much money or maybe have a lot of money, how they act, right? Like, oh, hey, I'm going to tip the bartender $500 in front of everybody. Everybody look at me and my money. And like, now you're going to like me more because I'm showing you I have money. Like, we want to like you for you, not because of like your finances. So that's why you can't purchase tickets at the door. Like all the money stuff is done prior to. So when you get in the space, everything is free, open bar. Because we're in Los Angeles, we have free pre-rolls. We have, you know, there's food there. You know, sometimes we're sponsored by, I think we've had Ike sandwiches sponsor us before. You know, we've had, we get my wife's French, so we get the best French baguettes, from the bakery and fruit from the farmer's market. And at this last party, we baked cookies at 2 a.m. Just why the fuck not? You know, we had it was funny. Me and my the food and beverage person, we were thinking about like, what should we buy this time? I was like, what if we got cookies? And they're like, oh my God, let's do it. And she's like, well, we're gonna need to get 100 cookies. I was like, no, 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 no. We only need like 40 cookies. Some people aren't gonna want to eat cookies, but it's not about everybody getting a cookie. It's about the place smelling like cookies. Yeah. Then no hierarchy. This was the other thing. Like, right? No one wants to go to a play party and feel like they're not VIP. Right? Like, you got, these women get dressed up and, it gets so beautiful. And just to get to a party to feel like, oh my God, well, these women are in VIP and this, or, the guy's like, oh, well, this guy's in VIP. Now I've got status here. And like, we're all human. We all get naked. We're all the same. There is no VIP when it comes to that. And a lot of these play parties, especially the more expensive ones, like, I'm not sure you even want to be in the VIP section, right? Like you've got the guy, the maybe the extremely older guy who can afford to be in VIP with the
20-year-old.
I'm not gonna look. I didn't say it. You said it, but you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
The point is VIP name may not be the area that you just want to be in at, especially at a play party. So we just make it to where everybody's the same. Any space that I can go into, you can go into as well, right? I'm not above anyone at the party as well. And I'm also, we have accountability forms where you can report that, hey, the person that was facilitating the party, like I had an issue with, and we have routes of that because we understand as facilitators of this party, we are at a position of power as well. So we want to make sure that everyone is held accountable to the similar standards. So then you're in the party, you've checked in. From 8 to 10 is like this happy hour. We'll have games and stuff. At one of my favorites at our last party, or the party before this last one, was the Alien Disco, where we had butt plug ring toss. We had fire spankings. But this is happening in that first 2 hours. So these fun games, truth or dare Jenga. There's so many. Yeah, there's a little game that you can play at home. Get a Jenga set, divide it amongst your friends. Everybody write down truths or dares on the Jenga blocks, put it up, and now you have a really fun sexy Jenga that can, create connections or discuss boundaries. There's so many different ways that you can go with it.
So this is the fostering the intimacy between the group that then.
Oh, no. This is not even the intimacy part.
Oh my goodness.
Right. Okay. Yeah. This is just creating authentic connections, right? These are icebreakers. Okay. We're just breaking ice here, right? Okay. Now you get to the play party, and I know your listeners are thinking like, well, fuck, what do I talk about? Like, what's my intro here? Yeah. Like, I like your hair, oh my God, you look beautiful tonight. Yeah. Like everybody's saying that at a play party. Everybody looks nice, right? The topic that we tell you to talk about at the prior to the start of the party, we want you to go up to everybody, and anyone can come up to you and ask you your boundaries. Go up to anyone and say, hey, my name is Jessica. What are your boundaries? And anyone can come up to you and say, hey, I'm so-and-so. What are y'all's boundaries? Right? We want that to be where our conversation starts. And that's what we want to normalize in this space of having boundary conversations from the jump. Once you talk about your boundaries, that conversation can springboard in so many different directions, right? How'd you get to that boundary? Oh my God, we have a similar boundary. It's like, oh my God, that should be our boundary too, right? Like you start realizing all the unique boundaries that are out there and how creative people are with their boundaries. And maybe they have boundaries that you haven't thought about, and they're maybe articulating them in a different way. So, when you start by saying, here are the lines that you will not cross, it creates such better interactions, right? So I could be a straight man and a gay man can come up to me for conversation, and he could just start it off with like, hey, what are your boundaries? Like, oh, I'm only hooking up with women tonight. My other boundary is that I'm just not going to do any, I'm not going to penetrate anybody but my wife tonight, but that respectfully let a gay man know that, hey, I'm not gay, but I'm still totally okay having a conversation with you. Here are my boundaries. And like, nice to meet you. Right. By saying, oh no, bro, I'm not, I don't identify like that. Just no, you can let everyone know how you identify by outlining your boundaries, accurately. So that's the way we have respectful conversations with maybe people that don't share our same identity, right? And it doesn't mean and it makes everyone feel respected. There's been times where I've had conversations, I'm having a conversation with a woman. I'm like, oh my God, this woman is beautiful. And I'm like, we had a 2-hour conversation and I wish I would have asked her boundary because then I find out she's a lesbian. Right. So now I go up to this woman, I'm like having this awesome conversation. Because what I found is I always have amazing conversations with lesbians. It's like we're connecting on so many different levels. I guess at heart I am a lesbian. No, that's a terrible joke. But point is that you know, by asking women, when I meet them now, because I've learned the lesson so many times, like, hey, how do you identify? Or like, what are your boundaries? Like, oh, I'm only playing with women tonight. Okay, cool. Well, maybe I'm going to still like, like I said, I love having conversations with lesbians. I don't know, it's a thing. So like maybe I'll keep that conversation to like a 30-minute conversation versus like my normal 2 hours when I'm just out in public, right? So it's because at a play party, let's be honest, we're all strategizing here, right? Let's not act like, oh, I'm just here to meet new people. Okay, like you came to the play party, right? Not the like social event. Or like, there's munches out there. This is the actual play party. And a munch is basically a social gathering for people in the quote unquote lifestyle where it's like sex isn't going to happen. We're just here to like hang out and see what's going on. So then at 10 p.m., we close the doors. Now, there's a big part. We're closing the doors because we got to create a closed container.
Yes.
In any, serious experience, right? And like, whether it's like a movie, you got to be at a movie at a certain time, right? You got to be at a concert at a certain time. Like we're about to go on a journey together. So like, or medicine ceremonies, like, you got to be there at a certain time. Like it's starting here and we're closing this container at this time. So we close our container at 10 p.m. If you're there after 10, we just won't let you in, and we're not going to give you a refund. Like, what the risk was. We don't play that. In LA, we have to be very strict about that. I'm sure your listeners will be coming on time, like, and that's what I love about, I love about the South is that everybody is,
respect. That's what we do.
Respectful of time, out here in LA is like, we'll see.
2 hours later.
Yeah, exactly. So I can't play the LA game. We shut the doors at 10. But the reason we shut the doors at 10 is because we gather everybody around, we cut off the music, and we talk about consent, what it looks like, sounds like, and feels like at the play. Our saying is, if it's not a fuck yes, it's a no. Yeah. So, the nicer way to say it is if it's not an enthusiastic yes, it's a no, right? What does enthusiastic yes look like? We all know like a yes, I want to do that, or yes, just whatever that yes looks like. We all know what an enthusiastic yes looks like. Now, what an enthusiastic yes is not is, I could be interested. That's a no. That's a no. That's somebody saying yes, but meaning no. And so that's where we're giving you these communication tools during the interview of saying, hey, a maybe, yeah, I guess, sure. Those are no's, right? And that's language that in maybe a monogamous relationship, that'll fly, right? You're with your partner and you're monogamous and it's like, yeah, babe, I guess we can do it tonight. It's like, okay, yeah, that is a yes. In our space, oh yeah, I think I could do it tonight. That's a no. That's a no. And that's what's going to save you from having consent issues and crossing someone's line. There's so many people in this play space to where if you can just find an enthusiastic yes, right? Like there's someone else that'll give you that enthusiastic yes. So don't try to get caught up on convincing this one person to be an enthusiastic yes. If they're not an enthusiastic yes, then just move on. It's totally fine. So, and let's say you do get a no. How do you receive a no? Right? Our saying is, when you get a no, we say, thank you for taking care of yourself. Right? It's the perfect exchange, because someone saying no to you isn't a reflection of you. It's them taking care of themselves, of their needs, saying, I'm not ready for that experience. So let's make sure that when we say thank you for taking care of yourself, it's like almost reassuring to myself. It's like, yeah, it's not a me thing. It's like they're going, it's a them thing. And like they're taking care of them, and I can move on. That's totally fine. In our space, we do say that, like, you can ask someone twice if they want to play. The reason for that is people are nervous at first. So sometimes it's like, and sometimes people can be a little aggressive, right? So it's like, look, we just, been 2 hours here. We just had the consent talk. I'm not trying, give me a second here, buddy. Like, I think you're cute, but like, I'm just not ready. Right. So like, okay, we can take that sign, because what we have found is like, sometimes you meet maybe the guy who you thought was cute was like, okay, like he's not a fuck yes. Right. Then he pulls out this 8-inch schlong, and you're like, you know what?
Maybe I'm a yes now.
Yeah, maybe I'm a fucking yes. Or like you see that he's like a shibari master, or like, forget penis size. Most of the times the fuck yes aren't coming from penis size. Like I'm telling you guys, penis size rarely matters in this space. What the skills that people have, like whether they're a flogging professional, right? They have like all this flogging experience. They have shibari experience. They know how to make every woman squirt, with their hands. And, there's so many different things. Because what I found in this space, like, growing up, you're told like, oh man, like, the women in these monogamous situations will say you have a big dick, but that's a lot of flirting and a lot of mind games, right? In this space, there's always a bigger dick. There's just always a bigger dick. That's one thing I didn't realize when I started doing play parties, is how many dicks I would see. Wow, there's a lot of dicks out there, and there's always a bigger one. There's just Tyrannosaurus dicks out there. And like, all to say,
my favorite part of the podcast, by the way. I love this. Thank you so much for listening to the Play Part 1 with Michael Hollis. Tune in next week for Part 2.
Thank you for listening to the Open Bedroom Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead and give us a like and click subscribe below, and stay up to date on all the new episodes that we release. If you have a topic that you'd really like more information on, leave us a comment below and we'll see what we can do. Feel free to share this podcast with all of your friends, and especially your partners. This is a great way to open up some amazing conversations. We'll see you next week.